Hey everybody, Amanda here from Tender Love and Paint. This is the first tutorial I'm going to do and one of the first projects that I'm actually doing for myself since I moved into this house in October. So I'm really excited because I've been working on projects for other people and projects that I've been selling. So this is actually going to stay in the house. It was given to us by the previous tenants and I like to repurpose things and reuse things, so it's a great table. It's in really good shape structurally. The top is not in very good shape. You can see that there's a lot of wear and tear here. And there's 4 matching chairs actually, but they had a puppy before we moved in, and the puppy chewed all of the chair supports on the bottom of the chair. So I'm not touching those. I'm just doing the table today. I'm painting it antique white, and I'm using a chalk paint that I've actually created. Sorry for the barking in the background, that's my puppy. I created a chalky type paint using a latex paint, a flat latex paint that's antique white, and that's from Behr, and I got that from Home Depot. And I mixed it with plaster of Paris and some warm water, and I can show that in another tutorial. But today I'm just going to show you how to paint this table. So I have what's called tall people problems, and I just looked into the video camera, and I don't think you're going to be able to see me when I actually stand up. Unfortunately, this is a small space, and I can't get into my workshop right now because it's too cold, so I need to paint inside. What I'm going to do is every couple of minutes when I get to the next step, I'm going to bring the video camera over and talk to what I was doing. So I'll throw in some clips of me painting, but unfortunately you're probably going to see half of my body. Here we go. So when you start off, the paint is going to be on the thicker side. You want thick so it covers pretty well. You can see this is the consistency you're going for. I guess like pancake batter, thin pancake batter. Latex paint is pretty thick to begin with. Plaster of Paris, when mixed with water, is also going to be thick. You don't want it too thick where your brush snags in the paint and actually pulls the paint away. So let me show you what this consistency looks like. See how smoothly that goes on? That's what you're going for when you're looking for paint consistency. And I'm getting a fairly decent coat coverage for just doing one coat right now. And as you go, if you've never really painted before, try to not backtrack too much over the paint that you've already put on, because as it dries, it's going to get a little tacky. And what I mean by that is if you go over it too many times with the paintbrush, it will start pulling off the paint that you've already put on. I just know I'm going to get a comment from my mother when she watches this that she can't believe that I painted wearing black clothing when I was painting white. If you saw my painting clothes, you'd be happy that I wasn't painting in my painting clothes while doing a video tutorial. So you just keep moving along. It's fairly simple. It's nothing too complicated in terms of the strokes or the direction of the brush strokes. Kind of do what feels right. For this first coat, you don't have to worry too much about what you're doing or your technique. One of the best tips that I can give to people who are new to painting furniture is don't worry too much about it. There's really no right or wrong technique in terms of your first coat. You don't want to do it too thick, you don't want to do it too thin. You can see that I have a lot of different directions of the brush strokes just so I can cover this table. A circular table or anything that has spindles or rounded edges is going to be a little more difficult to paint in terms of your brush strokes and the directions in which you paint, because you can't really paint in a straight line very easily. I guess I could have gone across horizontally across the table if I had wanted to, but I just chose to go around the edges first and then kind of fill back into the middle as I went along. You You can see this first coat is shaping up pretty nicely. I think I've been painting for 2 minutes maybe. So you can see that it doesn't really take a lot of time to put this first coat on. When you do hit areas that are textured because of the surface, you might have to use a little bit more paint than you used on smooth surfaces, and that's just because the extra paint is getting down into those little cracks and crevices that weren't there on the smooth surface. So just put a little more paint on your paintbrush and on the piece and just follow with what it gives you. Hi everyone, so I got the first coat on and I wanted to show you what the top looks like now that the first coat just went on the top. It looks a little haphazard, and it is because, like I said, I didn't really paint with any consistency in terms of the direction, and that's fine for the first coat. You just want to get it all covered and make sure that there's no bare spots or places that are peeking in through too much. The first coat, if you're doing 2 coats, really doesn't matter too much in terms of what it looks like. It's that second coat that's going to matter most. Now I'm going to move on to the detailing around the edges, so hang on and I'll show you that next. Hi guys, so now we're going to move on to step 2, and that's putting the first coat on all of the edges and the detailing. I'm going to paint this section right here on video so you can see me do it, and then I'll turn the video off and I'll come back later and I'll show you the rest. I don't know if you can see, but the puppy that was here prior to my puppy being here chewed pretty significantly on this part of the table. I am going to be distressing this piece, so I'm not going for perfect. I like imperfectly perfect or perfectly imperfect, however you want to say it. So I think it's going to add some elements of distressing when I actually go to sand it down and give it a nice antique wax later. So you might see it in the video. It might be a little hard. So let's see what it looks like. There are these tiny little holes, they're little circles in the detailing, and I want to paint those. The only problem you might have is that you'll get too much paint in there. You might have to go over it with a Q-tip and scoop out some of the extra paint as you go along. Right now, I don't know if you can see, but I'm using a sash brush or an angle brush, and this is really good for detail work. This is 1.5 inches. It's made by Purdy. I've been painting a lot with it recently. That's why there's tons of different colors. Every time I paint, I wash my brushes really well. So it's good because you're going to spend probably $10 to $12 on a decent brush, even more for larger, better brushes. So it's a good idea to keep them around for a long time. You can see that the angles and the scalloping and these little holes, all this is going to take a lot longer than just the flat tabletop. So if the flat tabletop took me maybe 5 minutes, this is probably going to take me 15-20 minutes realistically. So just make sure that you're giving yourself time to paint these kind of pieces. The good thing though is that by the time I get to the bottom of this table, the top of the table should be dry, so I can go ahead and start working on the second coat on the top of this table when I'm done with the bottom. Hi again. So you can see that I have finished painting the rim of the table now and the detailing. The next step I'm going to move on to is the table base itself. Hey everybody, hopefully you can see me okay. I finished painting the rim and the detailing of the edge of the table, and now I will be moving on to painting the table base. So I've been painting probably about 25 minutes now. So you can expect that It could take you anywhere between 25 minutes to an hour depending on how long you've been painting furniture, how quickly you move in terms of your level of methodicalness. I don't think that's a word. But your level of detail that you pay attention to as you're painting. Like I said with the first coat, it's kind of haphazard. Just get the paint on there. You don't have to be too worried about what it looks like. Honestly, like, you can go like this and it's not going to matter. You just go back over it with the paint. I'll probably paint this side first and then move down to the legs just for the video, but normally what I would do is paint this section first before I move down to the legs, and I'll do one leg at a time. But for tutorial purposes, I'll show you quickly how I paint a base and then paint the legs. Trying not to hit my head here. So you can see that very quickly you get one side of the base done. I'm trying not to crawl under the table, so normally I literally would get up under there and do this, or you can kind of tilt the table and do it on an angle when you're painting if that's easier for you. Especially if you have a bad back or bad knees. I like to kind of move around when I'm painting, so that's why I have painting clothes, because I always get paint on me. So far I'm good. I don't think I have anything on me. So I did this one section of the table, and I'm going to move on down to the legs now, and then the next clip you're going to see is me doing the legs right after I finish the rest of the base. Hi everybody, I'm on the last stage of painting this table. As you can see, I've painted the table base. I've probably been painting for about 45 minutes now. The table legs are going to take me maybe 10 minutes to do. They're relatively flat, very little detail. So when you're painting legs, there's really no difference. There's really no difference than painting the tabletop, other than you're just working with a smaller flat surface. So see how quickly I just painted this little bit here? It really does move very quickly. I like working with the 1.5 inch to 2 inch brushes because there's a decent amount of coverage that you get based on the size of the brush, and they're also very manageable. So like when I get down here to this little foot area, I haven't even taped. I do have a wet rag. I grabbed one when I shut the camera off. But with the sash brushes or the angled brushes, you can really get in to a tight area without having to tape. And if you do happen to get paint somewhere that you don't want it, you can wipe it up right away. I actually got paint on the wall before and I had to wipe that up. And it wipes up fairly easily, especially since latex is a water-based paint. So just a wet rag and honestly a little bit of dish detergent or dish soap will do the trick. So as you can see, I just quickly painted that one leg. I think it maybe took me 30 seconds. I'll do the back of the leg soon, but let me just do the other one for you too. Don't forget to post comments in this video so that I can answer any additional questions that you have that maybe I didn't answer as I was painting or that you saw throughout this video. Alrighty, so I'm just wrapping up this leg. So you can see, I'm going to have to get under the table like I normally do to make sure I get into this little area right here. What I just did was called cutting. I just cut into the edge of this table right here, right against the brass foot. And there you go. I have my first coat on. So I'm going to go around the rest of the table. Before I move on to the second coat, I'm going to give everything a little bit of time to dry. The top still looks like it's getting dry. There's a couple of wet spots still where the paint was a little thicker. So I'm going to turn on the ceiling fan, get everything dried up a bit, and then start on the second coat. Hi everybody, Amanda here. So I finished painting the first coat of this homemade chalky paint that I made. using the antique white latex flat paint that I got from Home Depot and some plaster of Paris and water. So you can see that I have painted the entire table white except for the claw feet that I love. They're polished or distressed brass actually. So you can see here that there's some detailing along the edges. It's harder to see now because it's all one color white, but when I distress and wax later, then the detail will pop out a little bit better. So here's the top of the table. It's pretty much completely dry now, so the next stage that I'm going to show you for the second coat of this piece, I'm only going to show the top because I want to get to the best part, which I think is distressing. I'm going to do a light distressing on this piece, nothing too harsh, because I don't want it to look too old. This house is from the 1920s, so I'd like it to show wear, but I don't want it to show like it's from the 1800s. So I'm trying something a little bit dangerous right now. It's not really dangerous, but it's dangerous to my clothes. I am just putting this table on an angle. Hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can see the entire table and what it looks like now. I'm going to go ahead and put the second coat, or at least start the second coat of paint so you can see what it looks like when you get that second coat of paint on top. See how it immediately covers the haphazardness that I was doing earlier? It's covering really, really nicely. I haven't changed the paint at all. I haven't added more water or more paint or more plaster of Paris. It's exactly the same as what I was using before. The great thing about this consistency with what this mix gives, you can use non-sanded grout mix as well to make a homemade chalky or chalk type paint, but I really like the plaster of Paris because it becomes so smooth if you mix it properly. There's no sanding required in between coats. I didn't touch this piece after I finished putting the first coat on. I just let the paint dry, and this is exactly what you get. So 2 coats is all you need. You don't need any more than that, especially since I'm going to do a little bit of a light distressing on this piece so that the natural wood shows through. If you find that there's an area that you want more paint coverage, go ahead and just put a little bit more paint on your brush and go over it, especially if you don't want to do a third coat on your entire piece. So as you can see, I got complete coverage with the second coat. Once that dries, it's going to dry to a nice matte finish. There will be no sheen like you see now. It's only shiny because it's wet. When I go ahead and wax it later, it's going to have a semi-gloss to it, especially if I buff it out really nice. And you'll see the hard coat that kind of happens after you put the wax on it and you buff it. So that's the whole purpose of wax, especially on top of paint that has a chalk-like finish, is to protect it, because anything that has plaster of Paris in it or non-sanded grout, it's going to be absorbent and it's going to want to attract water if you don't actually cover it with a wax. So that's the whole purpose. You could also use a polyurethane or a polyseal on top of this. It doesn't have to be wax, but I tend to like the look of a wax finish. It's not glossy. It's a little bit shiny, especially if you have it near a window and it picks up natural light. It will give a little bit of a reflection, but it's muted. It's more of a natural finish, I think. So there you go. You can see what 2 coats of this antique white looks like on this nice oak table. Hi everybody. So this is the last bit of this tutorial. Today I showed you how to paint this table. It was an oak table prior to becoming antique white. In the next part of the tutorial, in a new video that I take, will be all about how to get a distressed look so that it looks its age. I don't think this table is probably more than 30 years old, but I want to go for a look that says, hey, I've been around for 70, 80 years. So that will require some light sanding and then application of a certain type of wax. And I'll show you how to mix a couple different color waxes to get the appropriate shading. That's it for now. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I know that it was long, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And please make sure that you send me any questions or feedback in the comments section of this video, or shoot me an email at amanda@tenderloveandpaint.com. Visit us on Facebook /tenderloveandpaint. Thanks guys, bye.